He gave them everything without a single word. The mute Omega knelt before the triplet Alpha Kings. 3 months later he collapsed carrying their heir and not one of them came. He doesn't fall dramatically. That is the first thing to understand. There is no slow-motion collapse, no outstretched hand catching the wall, no sound that draws attention. Sio Yunha simply stops being able to stand, and the east stairwell of Seogang Elite Academy receives him the way it receives everything unwanted, in cold silence, without ceremony, against pale concrete that smells of industrial cleaner and winter seeping through the cracks. His back meets the wall. His knees meet the floor. His hand presses flat against his lower stomach, not in pain exactly, but in the way a person presses against something they are trying to keep, and the fluorescent light above him buzzes with the particular cruelty of institutional lighting that has never once been kind to anyone beneath it. His vision is going at the edges. Not dark. More like static. Like a television signal losing its grip on the picture. He is aware of the fever the way you are aware of something you have been carrying so long it has become part of your weight. 104 degrees, though he does not know that number yet. He only knows the heat behind his eyes, the iron taste at the back of his throat, the way the December air knifing under the stairwell door feels both terrible and like the only real thing in the world right now. A cleaning staff member rounds the bottom landing. She is moving fast, cartwheels squeaking, headphones in, already running 12 minutes behind on her floor schedule. She almost steps over what she initially reads as an abandoned pile of navy and gold fabric. Then the fabric breathes. She pulls one headphone out. Yunha looks up at her. His eyes are the color of winter rain, still, watchful, and so devastatingly calm that she takes a full 3 seconds to understand that something is catastrophically wrong, because boys who are truly in crisis do not look like they are simply waiting for something they have long expected. The intercom crackles to life 4 minutes later. The academy physician arrives in 7. The medical room is 3 corridors east, and the wheels of the gurney they bring are slightly uneven, so the whole journey there has a rhythmic, tilting quality, like something off balance trying to move forward anyway. Yunha notices this. He notices everything. It is the only skill no one has ever been able to take from him. The physician speaks in clipped syllables. Clinical. Efficient. The word dehydration first. Then fever, and he says the number, and Yunha watches the nurse's face change the way faces change when numbers stop being just numbers. Then a pause. A consultation between the two of them that happens in lowered voices 3 feet from where Yunha is lying, as if the distance makes him unable to hear. It doesn't. He has near photographic recall and the auditory sensitivity of someone who has spent 4 years reading rooms instead of speaking in them. He hears every word. 3 months. The nurse says it carefully, like she is afraid of it. Yunha's hand tightens on the thin blanket they've laid over him. His chest does not collapse. His face does not move. This is the thing about a person who learns silence as survival. The inside of them can be coming apart at the seams and the outside will hold like it was poured from stone. He watches the nurse pick up her phone. He watches her navigate to contacts. He watches 3 names appear on the screen as she selects all of them at once. Because protocol demands it. Because the academy's liability demands it. Because the Kong name is on half the buildings in this institution, and that name comes attached to obligations that move faster than conscience. Kong Si-jun. Kong Ryan. Kong Dae-hoon. The messages are sent at 9:14, 9:16, and 9:18 a.m. Yunha closes his eyes. Not in surrender. In the particular stillness of someone who has already lived through the answer before the question finishes being asked. He waits anyway. Because something in him, some bruised, stubborn, still kneeling part of him, has not yet learned how to stop. The fluorescent light buzzes on. The 4 drips. The nurse holds his hand because no one else is there to do it, and outside the narrow window Seoul blazes on in its winter light, enormous and indifferent and completely unbothered. Yunha's chemistry textbook is still in his bag. His notes on cellular pharmacology, written in his precise, near-architectural handwriting, are visible at the top. The physician had glanced at them when he set the bag aside and said nothing. People rarely said anything about Yunha's mind. It was easier to see the second-hand blazer and stop looking. His mind, though, that was the thing they would come to regret underestimating. He didn't know it yet. Not fully. But somewhere beneath the fever and the fluorescent hum and the devastating quiet of that room, something in Sio Yunha had already started to decide. I didn't know then that my silence had already declared war on them. The door to the medical room stays closed. The chair beside his bed stays empty. And from somewhere down the corridor, a voice says the words that cut through the intercom static like a blade finding its mark. Call the triplets. Now. Yunha's eyes close. No one comes. Seogang Elite Academy does not call itself cruel. It calls itself rigorous. It calls itself tradition. It calls itself the finest institution in Seoul, which it is, in the way that a gilded cage is still the finest cage, beautifully made, precisely maintained, and built to keep certain things exactly where they are. The hierarchy here is not written in any handbook. It does not need to be. It exists the way gravity exists, invisible, constant, and only noticed when something falls. At the top, the Alpha heirs. The sons of conglomerates, pharmaceutical dynasties, media empires. Boys who arrived in black cars with tinted windows and left their presence in every room they entered, like a scent the air refused to release. Below that, everyone else, arranged in decreasing order of family net worth, bloodline designation, and usefulness to the people above. And at the very bottom of this architecture, tolerated, not welcomed, present on the sufferance of a scholarship board that treated generosity like a debt it expected repaid in gratitude, were the Omega students who had come here on borrowed time and borrowed money, wearing the right uniform in the wrong size, eating in the right dining hall at the wrong table. Yunha had understood this on his first day at Seogang. He had understood it the way someone understands a weather system, not with shock, but with the calm, methodical recognition of a person who intends to move through it and come out the other side. His roommate Min-jae had spelled it out anyway, because Min-jae believed in naming things clearly, even things that hurt. The Kangs don't forgive. Min-jae had told him, cross-legged on the lower bunk, voice pitched low, eyes serious in a way that did not match his usually easy face. They don't punish, either, not the way normal people do. They erase. They make it so you were never here. Min-jae was a scholarship student too, engineering track, from Busan, with a laugh that could diffuse a room and a worry habit that kept him awake until 2 in the morning researching exactly who he was sharing a campus with. He was the first person at Seogang who had ever handed Yunha something without expecting anything back. A pair of good socks. A bowl of ramen. The kind of care that doesn't announce itself. Yunha had taken the socks and the ramen and had sat across from Min-jae at the small dormitory desk, listening to everything. He researched Kongstar Group the way he researched a chemical compound, systematically, layer by layer, following each element back to its source. The public record was enormous. The Kong family's name was threaded through South Korea's economic infrastructure the way certain proteins thread through cellular structure, everywhere, foundational, almost impossible to remove without collapsing the thing it held together. 3 brothers. Triplets. Kongstar conglomerate, 3rd generation. Combined estimated worth that the financial press reported in numbers that stopped feeling real after the 12th zero. And around them, orbiting like a moon that had convinced itself it was a sun, Oh Byung-chan. Social architect. Ryan's closest satellite. The kind of person who did other people's cruelty for them and called it loyalty. Yunha noted all of this. He filed it. His near-photographic memory sorted it into the architecture of things he needed to understand in order to survive. The East Wing Library, he understood, was not a temptation. It was a necessity. His father had transferred the encrypted drive before his arrest, the evidence of the hostile takeover, the Shell subsidiary, the deliberate destruction of Sio Pharmaceutical Holdings. The records that could restore a name. The records that could return to Yunha's mother what 4 years of fabricated corporate scandal had taken from her. The East Wing was locked to scholarship students. He had been mapping access routes for 3 weeks. Min Jae had found him at the desk one night, floor plans on the screen, and had gone very still. Yunha, he said quietly. Asterisk. Whatever you are thinking, be careful. Asterisk. Yunha had looked at him. Had held his gaze for a long moment. Had reached over and closed the laptop screen, not in dismissal, but in the particular way of someone who is protecting the other person from knowing too much. Min Jae had exhaled slowly. I hate this place, he said, and went back to his bunk. It was the night after, a Thursday, cold, the sky over Seoul pressing down low and gray, that Yunha sat alone in the dormitory bathroom, the only place in the building where the Wi-Fi cut out reliably enough to guarantee no monitoring, and pulled up the one file he had not let himself open yet. Constar Group. Subsidiary Holdings. 2019 Acquisition Records. There, buried 4 layers deep in corporate filings that most people would never have the patience to reach, a shell company. A name he didn't recognize, but with a registration address that matched, precisely, the building from which his father's company had been systematically dismantled. Yunha stared at it. His hands went cold. Not from the bathroom tile. Not from the December draft under the door. From the specific, bone-deep cold of understanding something you had suspected but prayed was wrong. They do not come for him loudly. That would suggest alarm. That would suggest that what is happening is unusual, when in fact it has the practiced quality of something that has been done before, a mechanism that turns with the particular smoothness of a door that has been opened many times. A prefect appears at the door of Yunha's last class on a Friday afternoon, as the chemistry instructor is writing molecular notation on the board in pale chalk strokes. The prefect does not speak to Yunha. He presents a folded card to the instructor, who reads it, sets down his chalk, and looks at Yunha with an expression that is carefully neutral in the way of a man who has learned not to get involved. Sio Yunha, the instructor says. You're expected. The walk to the Triplet's private common room takes 4 minutes. The prefect leads. Yunha follows. The hallway narrows into the upper residential wing, navy carpet, dark wood paneling, the academy's gold seal pressed into every surface like a reminder of whose world this is. The air is different here. Heavier. Warmer, like power has its own temperature. The common room itself is the most beautiful room Yunha has ever stood in while feeling the least safe. Deep leather chairs. A wall of books that have actually been read, spines cracked, margins visible from where he stands. A tea service on the low table, steam still rising, poured by someone who knew they would be needed. And the 3 of them, arranged without appearing arranged, the way people who have never had to perform authority because they simply possess it tend to carry themselves. Seo Jun stands near the window. He does not turn immediately. He is reading something on a slim tablet, and he finishes his sentence before he looks up, because that is the kind of person he is, the kind who makes you understand, in the simplest possible way, that his time has always been worth more than yours. Ryan is seated. One leg crossed over the other, jacket open, posture easy and deliberate. He is watching Yunha the way someone watches a piece of music they have not heard before, not unkindly, exactly, but with the particular attention of someone deciding what category to place it in. Daehoon is standing near the far wall. Arms crossed. Jaw set. He does not look at Yunha when Yunha enters, and that, somehow, is the most unsettling thing in the room. There are 6 other students present. Witnesses. All of them from families who understand that the correct thing to do when invited to watch something like this is to watch quietly and not ask questions. Oh Byung-chan is there too. Standing slightly behind Ryan, shoulders back, satisfaction arranged carefully across his face like a painting hung at the exact angle to catch the most light. Seojun sets the tablet down. There was evidence, he says, voice even, measured, architectural. Found in your possession. Documents photographed from the East Wing Academic Endowment Archive. Restricted files. Property of this institution, and by extension of the Kong family endowment. He says it the way a person reads a termination letter. Not cruelly. That would require feeling. This is simply the processing of information, delivered at the correct temperature. Yunha stands in the center of the room. His second-hand blazer. His resoled shoes. His hands flat at his sides because he has learned, with the precision of someone who practices things the way others practice instruments, to keep the trembling internal. Ryan tilts his head slightly. His eyes haven't left Yunha's face. If the accusations are false, Sio Yunha says, and his voice does not change, does not lift, does not offer anything as generous as doubt, prove it. Speak. The room contracts. Yunha's throat moves. The calm of his neck, the quiet effort of it, visible to anyone looking closely enough, though most in that room have already decided what they are seeing and have stopped looking with anything like care. His voice has been gone for 4 years. Not from physical damage. The doctors confirmed that early, in the weeks after his family's collapse, when his mother had sat in the specialist's office with her hands folded in her lap and her face set in the particular stillness of a woman absorbing another devastation without permission to fall apart. Psychogenic mutism, they called it. The throat closes around the trauma. The body decides that silence is the only safe thing left. He cannot speak. Not here. Not in this room, where every surface is designed to remind him of exactly what he is and what he is not. Sio Yunha waits exactly 10 seconds. Then, the choice is yours. A formal acknowledgement, or expulsion proceedings by Monday morning. Expulsion. Loss of scholarship. Loss of housing. Loss of his mother's medical coverage, threaded quietly into an academy welfare program he was not supposed to know existed, access to a third-party health arrangement that would dissolve the moment his enrollment did. Yunha knows this. He has known this since the first week, because he researched everything and understands exactly how the leash works and exactly whose hand holds it. He looks at Sio Yunha. He looks at Ryan. He looks at the 6 witnesses. He looks at Byung-chan's carefully arranged face. Then he does what survival requires. He kneels. The room is absolutely silent. His knees meet the floor with a quiet precision that contains absolutely no submission, though no one in that room is reading it that way. Yunha's mind, even here, even now, is doing what it always does, recording. The security keypad on the east wall, 6 digits, he had clocked the sequence from the prefect's hand on the way in. The library access badge clipped to the senior prefect's lanyard, the same model as the one in the east wing. The filing pattern on the shelf behind Sio Yunha's head. His body submits. His mind maps the room like it is a problem to be solved. And then, from the far wall, Dae-hoon looks away. Not toward the window. Not at Sio Yunha. Not at anything in particular. He simply turns his face away, jaw tight, one hand pressing flat against the wall behind him, as if he needs something solid to hold on to, and he cannot, he will not, be seen witnessing what is happening to the floor of that room right now. No one notices. Yunha does. He notices everything. The paperwork arrives on a Saturday morning in a cream envelope with the Academy seal pressed into the flap in gold wax. The kind of envelope that is designed to make its contents feel like ceremony rather than what they actually are, which is a leash, written in formal language, and handed to you with a pen. Disciplinary probation. Enhanced monitoring protocols. Continued enrollment contingent upon full compliance. Academic standing maintained. Scholarship preserved. Medical welfare arrangement continued, this line written in smaller font than the others, as if its smallness might make Yunha less aware of exactly how much weight it carries. He reads it twice. Signs it once. Does not let his hand shake while he does. The administration official across the desk, a mid-level dean with careful eyes and the posture of a man who has delivered documents like this enough times to have perfected the expression of neutral professionalism, accepts the signed form and slides it into a folder without looking at what he is putting away. People who work for institutions with this much money learn early not to look too directly at the things they are facilitating. Yunha leaves the office without incident. Down the main corridor, past the dining hall where the morning breakfast crowd is thinning, past the board of academic commendations where 3 identical photographs, Kang Sio Yunha, Kang Ryan, Kang Dae-hoon, first in their respective tracks, are mounted in frames that probably cost more than Yunha's entire scholarship stipend. She notices the bruising at his knees, visible at the edge of his uniform trousers when he shifts. She does not say anything. She pours a second cup of barley tea, sets it on the step beside him without breaking her stride, and continues down the corridor. Yunha wraps both hands around the cup. It is the warmest thing that has happened to him in days. He is still sitting there at 5:30 when the other students begin returning from the weekend academic sessions. He is still sitting there, still reading, still holding the empty cup, when he gets back to the dormitory room and finds something that was not there when he left. Slid under the door. A thin keycard weight, matte black with no identifying text except a single embossed detail in the lower corner, the Congstar crest, small and precise and unmistakable, pressed into the surface in the kind of ink that costs more than most people's weekly grocery budget. No name. No note. No explanation. Yunha picks it up between two fingers. Turns it over. Turns it back. His pulse does something he does not give it permission to do. He stands in the doorway of his dormitory room for a long time, holding a keycard from someone who sent him a warning this morning and apparently contradicted themselves by evening, and he thinks, with the careful, methodical precision of a person who has learned that the most dangerous thing you can receive from powerful people is not cruelty but ambiguity. That he needs to understand exactly what game is being played before he decides whether to move the piece. 3 months pass the way pressure passes through a fault line, quietly, invisibly, building into something the surface gives no sign of until the moment it breaks. The academy continues its rhythms. Morning assembly. Class rotations. The dining hall's careful social geography, unchanged and unchallenged, the way systems that benefit the people who design them tend to remain unchanged and unchallenged. Yunha moves through all of it with the particular fluency of someone who has mastered the art of existing without disrupting, present but not loud about it, visible but not available, carrying his weight in a way that takes up exactly the space he has been allocated and not 1 centimeter more. The triplets, in theory, have returned to their own orbits. In practice, something has shifted in the way they move through the academy, subtle in the way that certain structural changes are subtle, the kind you would not notice until you had spent enough time watching the architecture to see what had changed. Ryan takes different routes between buildings now. Routes that pass the eastern courtyard, where Yunha eats lunch alone on the stone bench beside the winterbear plum tree, medical textbook open across his knees, notes accumulating in the margins in his precise, cross-referenced hand. Ryan never slows. He never looks directly. But he takes those routes with a regularity that is not accidental, and Yunha, who notices everything, always, has clocked it to the day. Sio Yunha has requested something through administrative channels. Yunha does not know the specifics yet, only the downstream effect. The East Wing monitoring logs were pulled for review 3 weeks ago, by an access request that originated from the highest level of the Academy's board authorization. Someone is auditing what actually happened. And Daehoon, who had looked away first, whose hand had pressed flat against the wall like he needed something to hold. On a Tuesday in the 2nd month, Yunha's blazer disappeared from the dormitory administrative office where it had been logged for a size correction request that Yunha had not submitted. It was returned 4 days later in a garment bag, properly fitted, the shoulders sitting exactly where they should, the hem falling at the right length, the lining replaced with something softer. The administrative note read endowment correction, uniform quality standard. No name. The handwriting on the internal tag was not the handwriting of any administrative staff member Yunha had encountered. He had folded it carefully and placed it in his wardrobe and not thought about it for exactly 3 days before he thought about it constantly. It is the 8th week of the 2nd month when the incident happens that changes the temperature of everything. A first-year Omega student, younger, scholarship track, too small for his uniform in the same way Yunha had been, is surrounded by 3 second-year Alpha students near the East Gymnasium entrance after morning classes. It is not dramatic. It never is here. It is simply the quiet, systematic removal of dignity that this institution has never found a reason to address, delivered in lowered voices and calculated proximity, and the specific smile that means we know exactly how far we can go, and we have already calculated that no one will stop us. Yunha comes around the corner carrying his pharmacology notes and his lunch from the dining hall: steamed rice, kimchi, a small container of soup that has gone slightly cold, and stops. He takes in the configuration of the scene in approximately 1.4 seconds. The first year's breathing pattern. The angle of the larger student's body. The exit routes. The distance between the first year's bag and the ground and the likelihood of a next escalation. He walks forward. He does not run, because running would announce panic, and panic cedes control. He walks with the steady, purposeful pace of someone who has already decided the outcome, and is simply moving toward it. He steps between the first year and the second year with the quiet efficiency of a person placing himself as a wall, not aggressively, not with any posture that invites escalation, but absolutely, immovably there, his back to the younger student, his eyes on the 3 alpha students with an expression that is neither afraid nor aggressive but simply and completely certain. The second year in the center opens his mouth. Yunha holds his gaze. The second year closes his mouth. This is the thing about someone who has stood in rooms where real power lives, rooms where Kang Seojin's voice could end your enrollment in a sentence, where Kang Daehoon's stillness carries the specific gravity of someone who has never once in his life had to raise his voice to get results. After you have stood in those rooms and not broken, the boys who perform power in hallways are considerably less convincing. The 3 second years leave. Not quickly. Quickly would be too honest. They leave at a pace designed to suggest it was their own idea, which is the small mercy that Yunha allows them, because he is not interested in escalation. He is interested in the outcome. He turns to the first year, who is pressed against the gymnasium wall, bag clutched to his chest, eyes bright with the particular shine of someone who has been holding themselves together by a thread for a while now. Yunha looks at him for a moment, calm, even, taking in the shallow breathing, the way the younger student's hand keeps pressing to his ribs, and opens his lunch container. He holds out the soup. Still slightly warm. The younger student blinks. Takes it. His name is Sunwoo. 15 years old. Math and sciences track. Scholarship, 3rd tier, the most precarious kind. He tells Yunha this in a rush of words that come out all at once, as if he's been holding them for a while, and Yunha listens to all of it with the full, unhurried attention of someone who understands exactly what it costs to not be listened to. Sunwoo tells him something else, too, lower, more careful, about an assignment he has been struggling with. Organic chemistry. Reaction mechanisms. The kind of content that breaks students who come to it without a strong foundation. Yunha pulls a blank page from his pharmacology notebook and writes, fast, clean, precise, a breakdown of the mechanism from foundational principles, annotated at every step, in language pitched exactly for the level of someone learning it for the first time, but written without condescension, without simplification, with the full respect of one serious mind for another that hasn't yet had the chance to open all the way. He hands it over. Sunwoo looks at it. Looks up. You should be a professor, he says, and he means it. Yunha's expression does not change, exactly. But something in his eyes shifts, the faintest opening, the way a room looks when one curtain is moved back an inch, and the light finds a new angle. He does not know someone is watching. From the covered walkway that runs along the gymnasium's east side, glass-paneled, elevated by 2 steps, offering a clean sight line to the courtyard, Ryan stands with one shoulder against the window frame, hands in his jacket pockets, and watches. He has seen Yunha move. He has seen the configuration of the scene before Yunha arrived and after. He has seen the 3 second years leave and the younger student's posture change from brace to breathing. He has watched Yunha write on that page without hesitation, without performance, without waiting to be thanked. He stands there for longer than he intends to. Long enough for his coffee to go cold in his other hand. Long enough for something in his expression to do something he hasn't given it permission to do. Then he walks down from the covered walkway and into the courtyard, and Yunha, helping Sunwoo repack his bag, goes still in the particular way that prey animals go still, not afraid, exactly. Something more complicated than afraid. Ryan stops 2 feet away. 1 foot, really? The kind of distance that requires a decision to maintain, either step back or don't, and stepping back would mean something, so Yunha doesn't. Ryan looks at him. The smile that he uses on most people, the one Yunha has watched from across rooms for months, the one that works on everyone, is not quite present. Something else is. Something that has not been filed into a category yet. "You're not afraid of me," Ryan says. Low. Like he's reading something from a page he doesn't quite believe. Yunha holds his gaze. Does not confirm. Does not deny. Ryan searches his face for another moment, and then something changes in his expression. A shadow of something that is not quite guilt and not quite wonder, but lives in the uncomfortable territory between both. "I've been watching you," Ryan says quietly. "For weeks." Sunwoo, 3 feet away, goes very still. And Yunha, who has mapped every access route, catalogued every shift in the Triplet's movements, tracked the blazer and the keycard and the auditing request and every rerouted path through every eastern courtyard, realizes, with a cold clarity that moves through him from chest to fingertips, that he has been operating under the assumption that he was the only one doing the watching. He was not. He was never the only one. The night it happens is a Thursday in October, and it begins, as the worst nights often do, with something that looks, on the surface, like an ordinary thing. Byung-chan organizes a study session in the upper residential common room. Not the Triplet's private one. The shared one, 3 floors below, with its long tables and its window wall overlooking the Han River lit up silver in the autumn dark. Byung-chan does this occasionally, hosts gatherings that are framed as academic but function as social sorting events, where who sits where and who is invited and who appears uninvited tells everyone in the room exactly what they need to know about the current hierarchy. Yunha is not invited. He arrives anyway, because the upper common room has the best Wi-Fi signal in the east building, and he has a pharmacology submission due at midnight, and he has stopped, quietly and completely, organizing his life around what old Byung-chan has decided is acceptable. The room goes slightly still when he enters. Not dramatically. Just the small, collective adjustment of a group of people recalibrating who is allowed to exist in their space without permission. Byung-chan smiles. The kind of smile that means the evening just became more interesting than he expected. Ryan is there, in the far corner, laptop open, not quite paying attention to the room in the way that actually means he is paying attention to everything. He clocks Yunha's entrance. His expression does not change. Sio Yunha is not present. Dae-hoon is standing near the window with a glass of water and the fixed, contained quality of a person who came to a room for one reason and is now calculating how quickly he can leave for a different one. What happens next takes 11 minutes and is so ordinary in its cruelty that it barely registers as an event. Byung-chan's commentary, low-voiced, directed at the table nearest to where Yunha has settled, about the particular boldness of scholarship students who misread tolerance for welcome. The laughter that follows it, careful, calibrated, just loud enough. The way the laughter does what it is designed to do, which is to make the space around Yunha contract until it becomes a specific kind of loneliness, the kind that is most effective in a crowded room. Yunha keeps his eyes on his screen. His pharmacology notes. His hands do not shake. He does not see Dae-hoon set his water glass down with a precision that suggests if he did not do it carefully it would not be set down at all. He does not see Ryan close his laptop. He does not see either of them exchange a look, the particular, wordless communication of 3 men who have spent their entire lives sharing a frequency, because by the time he becomes aware of the shift in the room, Byung-chan has already gone quiet and the gathering has already begun dissolving with the efficiency of people who understand when an evening is over. What Yunha does not understand, cannot understand, is what is said in the corridor afterward, the words between Dae-hoon and Ryan that he is not there to hear, the argument that has been accumulating for weeks and arrives that night with the force of something that has been held underwater too long. He does not know that Dae-hoon says, with his back against the corridor wall and his voice at its lowest and most dangerous register, that this has to stop. That Byung-chan has to stop. That what happened in that common room, 3 floors up, 2 months ago, has to be faced. He does not know that Ryan, for the first time since Yunha's name entered their lives, does not deflect, does not perform, does not reach for the easy, surface-level response. He simply says, I know. What Yunha knows is only what happens after, the part that is his to carry. He is in the East Corridor at 11:47 p.m., heading back to the dormitory, pharmacology submission sent, when the door to the secondary stairwell opens behind him and someone says his name. Not Sio, not the way teachers say it, or administrative staff, with the particular flatness of a name used to organize people rather than address them. Yunha. Low. Private. Like a word being said for the first time after a long time of knowing it. He turns. Daehoon is standing in the stairwell doorway. His jacket is gone. His collar is open. He looks, for the first time in Yunha's entire experience of him, like a person who has lost an argument with himself. They are alone in the corridor. The overhead light is the kind that dims after midnight to save power, so the space between them is half dark and very quiet and filled entirely with everything that has not been said in 3 months. Daehoon does not move toward him. He simply stands there, one hand on the door frame, and looks at Yunha with an expression that is, for the first time, not controlled. Not composed. Not the face of a man who has decided in advance what he is going to feel. He says, I looked away. 3 words. That is all. No context offered, because none is needed. They both know exactly what he is referring to and exactly how many weeks it has taken him to say it. Yunha looks at him for a long moment. The light hums. Somewhere below them, a door opens and closes. He does not speak. He cannot speak. But he does not look away, and Daehoon, reading him with the particular attention of someone who has spent 3 months learning the language of a person who does not use words, understands that not looking away is its own answer. What happens in the next hour is not a romance. It is not a resolution. It is something rawer and more complicated than either of those things. 2 people in a dark corridor and a dim stairwell, one of them carrying guilt that has curdled into something desperate, the other carrying wounds that have not yet been named, and the terrible gravity between them pulling in a direction that neither of them is equipped, in this moment, to refuse. Daehoon does not take. He waits, both hands visible, every movement announced, the careful deliberateness of a man who understands, on some level he cannot fully articulate, that he has already taken too much without asking. Yunha does not say yes. He also does not say no. His body moves through the evening in the particular way of someone who has learned that silence is safer than resistance and smaller than hope, and that survival sometimes means going still and letting the current move you and telling yourself you chose it. He chose nothing. He survived it. This is the truth that sits at the center of that night like a stone at the bottom of cold water. Yunha's silence was not permission. It was the only language left to someone whose voice had been taken from him by people with more power. And Daehoon, for all his guilt, for all his I looked away, did not ask clearly enough to deserve the silence as an answer. He would understand this later. Much later. In a way that costs him everything he thinks he is. Yunha is back in his dormitory room by 1:15 a.m. Min-jae is asleep. The room is dark and exactly the way he left it, and completely altered. He sits on the edge of his bed. Does not lie down. Does not turn on the light. He looks at his wrist. At the faint mark there, not a bruise, not quite, the specific impression of a hand that held on, in the dark, briefly, and then was gone when the light came back. Claimed and discarded. He presses his hand flat against his lower stomach. He does not know yet what is there. He will not know for another 6 weeks. But something in his body already does. Sio Yunha finds him in the East Wing. Not through surveillance. Not through the access logs, though those are what led him here. 3 weeks of quiet, methodical audit, conducted through proxy requests and third-party verification channels, so that no one inside the Academy's administrative structure would know which direction the questions were coming from until the answers had already arrived. He finds him because the audit told him the truth, and the truth told him where Yunha would be, And Sio Yunha has spent his entire life being the kind of person who follows a thing to its source regardless of what he finds there. The east wing is empty at 6:20 a.m. The camera rotation gap is real. Yunha had documented it correctly, down to the second. The secondary stack entrance yields to the keycard that arrived under his dormitory door 2 months ago, the one with the Kongstar crest and no name, the one Yunha had not used until this morning because he needed to be certain, and he is, finally, certain. He is at the archive shelf, third row, east wall, the endowment records filed under the fiscal year that corresponds to his father's arrest, when he hears the door. He does not run. Running is not the calculation. The calculation is, how much of what he needs is in his hands right now, and is it enough? The encrypted drive is already in his jacket pocket. His father's handwriting on the internal label, 3 characters, a family name, a date, pressed against his ribs through the fabric. The files he photographed on his phone are backed up through an encrypted cloud account registered to an email address that does not connect to his name. He has been meticulous. He has been meticulous about everything for 4 years because meticulousness is what kept his mother's medical coverage intact, and kept his scholarship alive, and kept him standing in rooms where every surface was designed to make him feel like he should not be there. Sio Yunha enters the room. He is alone. No aide. No prefect. No performance of authority, because he is the kind of person who doesn't need the staging. He looks at Yunha. At the open archive. At the shelf where the files have been accessed, carefully replaced, the order of them pristine in a way that would fool most people but not someone who had memorized their original arrangement before requesting the audit. He does not say "I knew it." He does not say "caught you." He says nothing for a moment, and in that moment Yunha watches his face do something Sio Yunha's face almost never does. It recalculates. Not the charges. Not the response. Something deeper. The foundational assumption. "You weren't stealing," Sio Yunha says. Not a question. The statement of a man reading the conclusion of a proof he has just completed. Yunha holds his gaze. "You were retrieving it." Still, Yunha does not speak. But his eyes, those winter-rain eyes, still and deep and carrying 4 years of everything, answer him in a language that requires no words at all. Sio Yunha moves to the reading table in the center of the room. He sits. He sets both hands flat on the surface, and there is something in the gesture that is almost, the posture of a man preparing to be held accountable. Not quite. Not yet. But the shape of it. "The Shell subsidiary," he says. "Hankook Asset Partners. Registered 2019. Dissolved 2020. He says the name the way someone says something they have known for 3 weeks and have spent 3 weeks deciding what to do about. "It processed the acquisition of Sio Pharmaceutical Holdings. We, Kongstar, had a position in it. Silent. Third layer removed." A pause. "I was 17 when it happened. That does not mean I am not responsible for what my family's money did." Yunha's chest does something it has not done in a long time. Something that is not quite grief and not quite relief but lives in the space between them, the way all the truest things do. "I'm a bad person," Sio Yunha says. His voice is even. It is always even. But underneath the evenness there is something real, the particular quality of honesty spoken by someone who has never found it easy and is doing it anyway. "But I am honest. What was done to your father was done with Kong money. That is a fact. I cannot undo it. I will not pretend it didn't happen." He looks at Yunha directly. "I also will not insult you by apologizing in a room where the apology costs me nothing." Yunha stares at him. This man, this composed, architectural, cold man who read false charges against him in a beautiful room and waited for him to speak knowing he couldn't, is sitting across a library table in the early morning dark telling him the truth without being asked for it, without a guarantee of what the truth will cost him. It is, Yunha thinks, the most unexpectedly decent thing that has happened to him in this building. He reaches into his jacket pocket. Places the encrypted drive on the table between them. Lets it sit there. Sio Yunha looks at it. Then up. "Your father's evidence." Yunha does not say, because he cannot say anything. But he touches the drive with one finger and then moves his hand flat to his chest, over his heart, and Sio Yunha, who has spent 3 weeks auditing every available record and 2 of those weeks teaching himself to read a person who communicates without language, understands. The silence between them shifts. Becomes something different. Not comfortable. Nothing between them will be comfortable for a long time, but real. The specific realness of 2 people who are no longer pretending they are not in the same room for the same reason. Then Sio Yunha says it. Quietly. With his eyes on Yunha's face and the drive on the table between them and the winter light beginning to press through the archive's high narrow windows. Tell me whose child you're carrying. Yunha's stomach turns over like a page in a book that has been held face down for a very long time. The drive sits between them on the table. The morning comes in through the glass. Either of them moves. By the time Oh Byung-chan understands what is in motion, it is already too late for him to stop it gracefully. So he does what people do when grace is no longer available. He moves fast and he moves dirty, and he tells himself the whole time that he is simply protecting his interests, which is the thing people say when they mean they are protecting themselves at the expense of someone who cannot afford to fight back. He leaks on a Wednesday. Not through official channels. He is not that obvious, but through the particular social infrastructure of Siagang's upper residential network, which moves information faster than the administration and with considerably less accountability. By Wednesday afternoon the story has already acquired shape. Sio Yunha, the mute scholarship Omega, deliberately seduced the Kong triplets. Got himself pregnant. Is now using the situation to extort access to confidential family records. The evidence in the East Wing? Planted. The pregnancy? Strategic. The silence? Performance. It is a masterpiece of reframing. Byung-chan has always been talented at taking the truth and rebuilding it so the light falls differently. By Thursday morning, Yunha can feel it. He cannot hear the specific words, he is never in the rooms where they are said, but he has spent 4 years developing the ability to read an environment the way other people read text, and Siagang's environment on Thursday morning is telling him, in every available frequency, that something has been released into the air that has his name on it. He walks to morning assembly with his bag over one shoulder and his pharmacology notes in hand and his face doing what it always does under pressure, which is nothing, no expression, no acknowledgement, no gift to anyone watching of knowing that their work has landed. But his body is less controlled than his face. The fever that has been threading through him for weeks, the one he has been managing with hydration and sheer determination and the specific stubbornness of someone who cannot afford to be sick, has moved up a level. His vision swims at the edges for 3 seconds on the second-floor landing, and then rights itself. He presses one hand briefly to the wall and keeps walking. In the afternoon, in the east courtyard where Sun-woo usually meets him for their study sessions, Sun-woo is not there. His absence says everything. The rumors have reached the first years, and Sun-woo is 15 and on a third-tier scholarship and cannot afford the association. Yunha understands. He does not blame him. He sits on the stone bench alone and opens his textbook, and his hands are steady, and his face is steady, and inside his chest the fever burns like a held coal. Ryan finds him there. Ryan, who has been terrifyingly pleasant all week, the smile present, eyes sharp beneath it, moving through the academy like a man who is tracking something he hasn't announced yet. He sits beside Yunha without asking and close enough that the bench's cold stone is irrelevant between them. I know what Byung-chan is saying, Ryan says. No preamble. No softening. For once, the performance is off. Underneath it is something that looks, uncomfortably, like self-recrimination. I know who started it. Yunha looks at him. Asterisk. I'm not going to tell you I had nothing to do with the environment that made him think he could. Ryan says it flatly. Like someone reading a charge against themselves. That would be dishonest. And you. He stops. Looks at Yunha's face for a moment. You have had enough dishonesty from this direction. Yunha closes his textbook. He does not look away. Ryan reaches into his jacket and places a phone on the bench between them, not Yunha's, a second one, matte black, no case, preloaded. Sio, he says. Encrypted. No Academy network access. If something happens and you need. He stops again. Recalibrates. Take it, he says. Please. Please. The word sits oddly in Ryan's mouth, like something borrowed from a language he is not fully fluent in yet. Yunha picks up the phone. That evening, in the corridor outside the administrative wing, Daehoon intercepts Byung-chan. Yunha is not there for this. He learns of it the way he learns most things, from the downstream effects, from the shift in air pressure, from the fact that by Friday morning Byung-chan has not appeared at breakfast and the third-year alpha students who circulate nearest to him are moving with the careful, recalibrated energy of people who have received an instruction they did not expect and are not going to question. What Daehoon said is not recorded anywhere. But the effect of it is this: Byung-chan does not speak Yunha's name again. Not that day. Not the following week. The silence around him has the specific quality of a silence that has been instructed. Touch him, Daehoon had said, and this part does reach Yunha through Min-jae, who heard it from a second year who heard it from the aide who was 3 meters down the corridor. And you answered to me. Personally. 3 words. That is all. But Daehoon says things the way people mean them when they have nothing left to lose by meaning them. Yunha is in the dormitory that night, the encrypted drive in his bag, the new phone charging on his desk, when the message arrives. Unknown number. Blocked ID. Meet me in the east stairwell. Come alone. He reads it twice. His pulse does not spike, it slows, the way it does when the body moves from ordinary alert into the particular, cold focus of genuine threat assessment. He looks at the message for a long time. Then he picks up the phone Ryan gave him, puts it in his jacket pocket, picks up his bag with the drive inside it, and goes. He knows it is a mistake by the 3rd step down. The east stairwell smells the same as it always does: concrete, industrial cleaner, the cold seam of December under the exterior door. But there is something else tonight. The particular weight of a space that has been waited in. The sense of arrival without welcome. Byung-chan is at the bottom landing. Not alone, there are 2 others with him, upper-year students Yunha has seen in Byung-chan's orbit but never learned the names of, positioned in the way that people who have been told to stand somewhere and look large tend to stand. Byung-chan himself looks like a man who has been afraid for several days and has decided that aggression is the more comfortable address. The drive, Byung-chan says. His voice is 3 notes higher than usual. Whatever you took from the east wing. Give it to me. Yunha stands on the 4th step from the bottom. He holds the stair rail, not for drama, but because the fever, which has been escalating since afternoon, is making the stairwell tilt in a way that is no longer manageable by sheer will. His hand on the rail is the only honest thing about his posture right now. The rest of him is composed, still, facing Byung-chan with the particular quality of a person who has already survived worse and knows it. He does not move toward him. I'm not asking, Byung-chan says. My family's name is in those files. The subsidiary. If that evidence goes anywhere, to the con board, to the press, to anyone, my father. He stops. Recalibrates. The fear is leaking through the aggression now, visible at the edges. You have nothing, he says. You are nothing. You are a scholarship case who can't even speak, carrying a situation that you caused, and if you think any of the 3 of them are going to. Yunha's vision goes white at the edges. Not from the words. From the fever. From the 104 degrees that his body has been carrying since this morning, and can no longer sustain as background noise. From the way the stairwell suddenly tilts hard to the left, and the rail under his hand is the only thing keeping the landing horizontal. His bag drops first. Then his knees. Then the rest of him, the drive still inside the bag, his hand still reaching for the rail as the concrete comes up to meet him with the specific, unhurried certainty of something that has been waiting. He does not lose consciousness immediately. This is the particular cruelty of it. He is aware, for a moment, of the stairwell ceiling above him, of Byung-chan's sharp intake of breath, of the sound of footsteps going away rather than toward. He is aware of the fluorescent light buzzing, of his hand pressed flat against his lower stomach, of the cold of the concrete seeping up through his jacket. He is aware of making the decision, even here, even now, with his body failing and the drive 3 inches from his hand, that he is not done. That this is not the end of anything. That there is a medical program at Yonsei University he has already been accepted to under an assumed arrangement, confirmed 2 weeks ago by a sealed letter in his dormitory box, and that his mother's scans from last week came back clear for the 3rd consecutive month, and that Sio Yunha has survived 4 years of being treated like a thing that could be discarded, and that he intends to survive this too. He wraps his fingers around the bag strap. He holds on. Ms. Hain finds him 11 minutes later, because Ms. Hain runs the East Building maintenance and has been taking her afternoon break on the bottom stairwell landing for 19 years and has never once taken a different route home on a Thursday night, and the universe occasionally allows one thing to go right. She does not step over him. The medical room again. The 4 again. The nurse who holds his hand because the chair beside his bed is empty and will remain empty, and Sio Yunha is not surprised by this, which is its own kind of devastation. To be so unsurprised by abandonment that it has stopped feeling like a wound and started feeling like weather. 3 messages. Sent at 9:14, 9:16, and 9:18 a.m. the next morning, because the medical team follows protocol, because the con name is on the buildings, because the liability requires it. Seo Jun is in a board meeting. He sets the phone face down on the table and does not pick it up again for 40 minutes. And when he does, his face does not change, which is the most damning thing of all, not cruelty, but the practiced indifference of a man who has trained himself so thoroughly in composure that he can read a message about the collapse of someone carrying his family's child and feel the information without acting on it. He will spend a long time with that. It will not be comfortable. Ryan reads the message in his car, stopped at a light on Tehran Ro, the Han River visible 3 blocks south in the morning glare. He reads it twice. He puts the phone in his pocket. He orders a coffee from a cafe app without getting out of the car. He does not turn the car around. He will not be able to explain this later. Not to Dae-hoon. Not to himself. Not in any way that sounds like anything other than what it is, a man who had already decided, on some level he refused to examine, that caring came with a cost he wasn't ready to pay. Dae-hoon reads the message at 9:18 a.m., standing at his desk, and his hand grips the edge of the desk hard enough that the knuckle color goes from dark to white. He stands up. He sits back down. He stands up again. He does not go. Not immediately. Not for 3 hours, during which he conducts a conversation with himself that he loses completely by noon. He arrives at the medical room at 12:34 p.m. The door is ajar. The afternoon light is thin and pale through the narrow window. The 4 drip is still running. The nurse has stepped out. Yunha is awake. He is sitting upright against the narrow pillow, bag across his lap, the bag with the drive inside it, hand resting on the strap the way a person rests their hand on something they have decided not to let go of. His face is the color of paper. His eyes are clear. He looks at Dae-hoon in the doorway. Dae-hoon looks at the 4. At the pallor. At the empty chair that has been empty for 3 hours and 20 minutes, and will carry the specific weight of that emptiness for longer than any chair should have to. He opens his mouth. Yunha reaches into his bag. Takes out the encrypted drive, his father's evidence, the Shell subsidiary records, 4 years of destroyed truth, and slides it into the front pocket of his bag with a deliberateness that is its own complete sentence. He pulls the 4 from his arm with the steady, practiced hand of someone who has been studying medical procedure for 2 years. He stands. He puts his bag over his shoulder. He walks to the door. Dae-hoon steps aside. Because there is nothing else to do. Because Yunha's eyes, when they meet his, contain something that is not anger and not grief, something that has moved past both of those into the clear, cold country on the other side of both, where a person goes when they have finished waiting for other people to decide they matter. Yunha walks past him. The door stays open behind him. In the corridor, His footsteps are quiet and even and absolutely certain, moving toward the exit, toward the cold December air, toward everything he has already decided is next. 3 things happen in the week after Yunha walks out of Siagang's medical room, and none of them are dramatic in the way that academy gossip requires drama to be. The first, Oh Byung-chan's enrollment is terminated. The official reason, circulated through administrative channels, is a documentation irregularity in his scholarship application, a historical misrepresentation, discovered during routine audit. The real reason, which everyone with proximity to the Kang family's inner circle understands without needing it explained, is that Dae-hoon made one phone call on a Friday afternoon and by Monday morning the irregularity had been found. Byung-chan's father's ties to the Hanguk Asset Partners subsidiary are flagged simultaneously in a separate filing with the Financial Services Commission, not by the Kangs, but by a legal firm acting on behalf of an unnamed client with a very complete set of documents. The filing is neat. The filing is airtight. The filing is the work of someone who has been preparing it for months with the methodical precision of a person who was never, not for a single day, as powerless as the people around him believed. The second, Yunha's mother's medical coverage does not lapse. It transfers, quietly, through a restructured welfare arrangement that is no longer tied to Seogang enrollment but to a university health partnership. The paperwork for the transfer is processed before Yunha even reaches the clinic where he will spend his first appointment, confirming what he already knows and beginning to plan for what comes next. He does not know who initiated the transfer. He suspects Sejun. He files it alongside the blazer and the keycard and the second phone in the category of things he has received from a direction he does not yet trust, offered by people who have not yet earned the trust they are reaching toward. The third, nothing from any of the 3 brothers. No call. No message. No appearance. This is the loudest of the 3 things. Min-jae drives him to the first appointment. Min-jae, who has never once required an explanation for his presence, who simply showed up at the dormitory door with his car keys and a container of warm doenjang jjigae, and said I'll park outside in the tone of a person who has already accounted for every objection. In the waiting room, while Yunha reads a pamphlet on prenatal nutrition with the focused attention of someone converting fear into information, Min-jae sits beside him and shows him a video of a very small dog failing repeatedly to climb a single stair, and says nothing else, and it is, genuinely, the correct thing. 6 weeks pass. Then 8. Then the winter breaks open into something that resembles, cautiously, like spring. Yunha begins the process of his own formal legal filing, the Sio pharmaceutical evidence, submitted through a law firm connected to a professor in his university's pre-law faculty who had read his case summary and said, with the particular controlled excitement of an academic encountering genuinely important work, that this was not a difficult case. It was only an unbrought one. It is brought now. His voice does not return all at once. It does not return dramatically. It returns the way all real things return after a long absence, in pieces, in private, in the small hours of the morning when there is no audience and no performance required. A sound. A breath that becomes a syllable. A word, spoken alone in the clinic bathroom on a Tuesday in February, that is not directed at anyone and does not need to be. Yama. Mother. The first word he speaks in 4 years and 3 months, and he speaks it to the wall of a clinic bathroom with his hand over his lower stomach and his eyes steady and his chest doing something enormous and wordless. And then he washes his hands and walks back out into the waiting room where Min-jae is asleep in the chair with his mouth slightly open and the small dog video still playing on his phone. His mother is stable. The most recent scans, 4th consecutive clear, are printed and folded in Yunha's wallet, carried the way people carry the things they need to know are real. On a Thursday in April, in the courtyard of Seoul National University's medical school, where Yunha sits on a stone bench in the thin spring light reviewing his first semester pharmacology materials for an exam that his professor has already, quietly, told 3 colleagues he expects to be the highest in the cohort. A younger student drops a notebook directly in front of him and crouches to collect the scattered pages with the flustered energy of someone who is overwhelmed and trying not to show it. The notebook falls open to an organic chemistry problem set. reaction mechanisms. The exact content that Sunwoo had struggled with, 6 months ago, in a different courtyard. Yunha picks up 2 of the scattered pages. He looks at the problem set. He takes out a pen. He writes, fast, clean, precise. The mechanism from foundational principles, annotated at every step, in language pitched for someone learning it for the first time but written without condescension, with the full respect of a serious mind for another that is still finding its footing. He hands it back. The younger student looks at it. Then up. Do you teach here? Yunha shakes his head. Almost smiles. Something close to it. He gathers his own materials and stands, and the spring light is doing something uncomplicated to the courtyard, warming the stone, softening the air, making the plum trees along the east wall do what plum trees do in April, which is arrive without announcement and be present and not require anything of anyone. He is almost at the courtyard gate when he sees them. They are standing outside the gate, on the pavement side, arranged without appearing arranged in the way that is entirely their particular quality, and always will be. All 3. Sio Yunha with his hands in his jacket pockets, composure intact but at a cost that is visible if you know what to look for, which Yunha does. Ryan, for the first time in Yunha's entire experience of him, without the smile, without any version of performance, just a face that is doing the difficult, unfamiliar work of simply being present without armor. Daehoon, who is looking at Yunha with the expression of a man who has spent 4 months sitting with what he is responsible for and has arrived, finally, not to argue with it but to carry it. They are not demanding. They are asking. There is no speech. No prepared statement. Sio Yunha does not produce a document. Ryan does not perform contrition. Daehoon does not make a declaration. They are simply standing on the other side of a gate in the spring light, and the asking is in the fact of their presence, the fact that they came here, to his ground, on his time, without the structures that have always made them larger than the spaces they stand in. Without the academy walls. Without the Kong name deployed as architecture. 3 men who held every advantage and used it incorrectly, standing outside a university gate in April like people who have only just understood the difference between having power and deserving it. Yunha looks at them for a long moment. He thinks about a stairwell in December, and a fluorescent light buzzing and a chair that was empty for 3 hours and 20 minutes. He thinks about a kneeling that was never surrender. He thinks about his father's handwriting on a label the size of a thumbnail, pressed against his ribs through jacket fabric, on a morning when he walked out of a room he should never have had to walk out of alone. He thinks about his mother's scans, folded in his wallet. About Minji's small dog video. About a word spoken to a clinic bathroom wall in February that broke 4 years of silence, and asked nothing of anyone. He has not forgiven them. Forgiveness is not today's work. Today's work is simply this, standing in the spring light with his own ground under his feet and his own future in his hands and the choice, genuinely his, not coerced, not survival, not the absence of other options, of what comes next. The word is in his throat. It has been there since February, getting stronger, taking shape. He looks at Daehoon, who looks back at him with both hands visible and every wall down. And Sio Yunha, who knelt when they demanded it, who carried what they walked away from, who retrieved his own truth from a locked room and filed it with a law firm and spoke his first word to a bathroom wall, decides. He opens the gate. He does not speak yet. But he steps through. And they step back to give him room, genuinely, completely, without claiming the space before he's offered it, and the plum blossoms come down from the trees along the east wall the way they always do in April, without announcement, without asking permission, arriving simply because the season has finally come. If this story found you, if it moved something in you, made you feel less alone, or reminded you that silence is never the same as weakness, then this ending was written for you. Subscribe to this channel and turn on your notifications, because every story we tell here is made with this same care, this same heart, and you should never have to miss one. Share your thoughts in the comments below. What did this story mean to you? What did you feel when Yunha opened that gate? And if someone in your life needs to hear a story about surviving, about dignity, about choosing yourself after everything has tried to take that choice away, Share this with them. Stories travel because people carry them. Thank you for carrying this one.